Okay, super. Let's call the Thursday, February 12th, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting I'll get it right eventually. To order. First item of business, public hearing concerning application PZC 26-001, Summers Mountain Properties, 359 Mountain Road, Summers, Connecticut, seeking site plan approval for construction of a new building housing a tasting room, event space approximately 4,000 square feet, and storage of approximately 2,100 square feet, and permanent placement of current storage container.
I'm sorry, can you talk up a little bit for us old timers that can't hear too good?
Sure.
All I heard was,
Okay. Application number PZC 26-001, Summers Mountain Properties, 359 Mountain Road, Summers, Connecticut, seeking site plan approval for construction of a new building housing a tasting room and event space approximately 4,000 square feet, storage of approximately 2,100 square feet, and permanent placement of current storage container.
Brad, sorry, you need to seat Dan Ferrero as a voting member tonight.
So, good. Okay. You're going to seat Dan Ferrero as an active member. Dan's an alternate. Okay. Do we do that by motion or do we do that by?
No, you do it.
Executive fiat. Okay.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Dory Reiser from Kahan, Kerensky, and Capicella. I represent the applicant in connection with this public hearing before you this evening. The application you heard a little bit about at your last meeting. It was decided just in the public interest, I think, maybe to have a public hearing this evening as well on it. But the application is contemplated as part of a settlement agreement that maybe the Planning Commission isn't quite as familiar with, but the Zoning Commission was a party to before you merged bodies. As you know, Worthington Winery has been in operation for many years. There's been some ongoing litigation with regard to some complaints having to do with operations, some arising out of issues having to do with the regulations in the town, and others having been brought forward by a neighbor who appealed a number of approvals in connection with the operation of the winery. The settlement agreement, which, by the way, was approved by the Zoning Commission on December 1st of last year, accepted by the neighbor who was a party in the litigation on December 8th of last year, and approved by the court on December 15th of last year, specifically contemplates what we have before you right now, which is a modification of the site plan to allow for the construction of a new tasting room. The new tasting room will be 750 or more feet from the road. It will become the primary base of operations for the tasting facilities once constructed. And the settlement agreement talks about that and talks about how once the new tasting room is up and running, how operations will change. That was all addressed in the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement also contemplates modifying the site plan to provide for the permanent location of what's now deemed a temporary storage building or container on the property. It's behind the Sugar Shack, which is where they're doing their manufacturing. It was, I think, originally approved as a temporary storage and therefore had a special permit, which was renewable over time. And because we plan on keeping it there permanently, we want to add it as a structure with a permanent location on the site plan. Again, all contemplated by the settlement agreement, which was signed by all parties and approved by the court. So that's what we're here to do tonight. And the purpose of this application is a site plan review. And you know it's to determine compliance with your regulations. So what we're solely looking at tonight is the new proposed improvements, which is the location of the storage container as a permanent structure now, as opposed to a temporary storage. It won't be moving in location. It's going to be exactly where it is, which complies with all required setback requirements. And then the construction of the new tasting room, which again I mentioned is much further into the interior of the property. That did receive approval of your Conservation Commission a couple weeks ago. There was some minor work in the upland review area having to do with regrading in order to accommodate the improvements, and also a grease trap in connection with the existing septic system, because there'll be and Jay will talk about that. But I know he did a little bit of a review for you at the last meeting, but again, because it's a public hearing now, we want to have this all on the record. So I'm going to ask him to put the plans up and just briefly take you through just the things that are changing, just the improvements that are before you tonight. We'll focus in on that, and then we can go through the review criteria and confirm that you're satisfied that the application conforms with the applicable regulations, and then we'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Do you have one large enough for the easel so that people can see? All right, good. Super. Thank you.
I think you have some plan sets there that we dropped off if you wanted to roll them out, although I think you'll be able to see everything here on the slides as well. So for the record, Jay J.R. Russo and Associates here representing the Murdochs with regard to the winery tasting room. So this is page 3 of your plan set. I've printed it out here in color. This is just an overall view of the site. See where we are in relation to the new improvement of the new tasting room with regard to the street and so on and so forth. So if we look to the right over here, this is Mountain Road. Here is Worthington Pond, which is the larger pond on the property. The driveway into the facility comes in right over here. And our new tasting room is going to be located out here. I think from the street, I don't know, we're 800 or 900 feet. I could scale it, but it's substantial. It's a long ways from the road. The existing gravel parking area is located up here. The warming house here and the sugar shack over here. And as I said, the new building is going here, which for those of you who have been there or maybe have gone to an event there years ago when Dan Rillier was operating it, he had I guess I'd call it an event tent that he put up there on occasion when he had a larger function, which is located in the same spot. There's a gravel area here. The covered bridge is here. He also used that for different types of events as well at different times, as do the Murdochs. So that gives you a kind of overview of where you are in terms of the property. The entire property is about 88 acres in size, and this is going to be located right here. So let me grab another board before I get to the actual plan of the building. So if you're looking at the plan set, this would be sheet 5, which is a blow-up essentially of the building area. Looking off to the right, the main driveway coming in from Mountain Road is out here. Again, sugar shack, warming house, new building is located here. The parking, again, located up here, gravel parking area. There is, which I can show you another sheet, the overflow parking that was before this commission, a couple of years ago down here in the field, is located there.
Excuse me one second. I'd just like to add, there are no proposed changes whatsoever to the parking layout. And Jay will take you through the parking calculations to confirm conformity, but I just want you to know with regard to site improvements, the parking, both the overflow and the gravel lot are exactly the same.
So the main building is here, and if you read it, actually it's in your public notice, I think. The actual floor area of the tasting area is just a little over 4,000 square feet. We're at 88 by 50 roughly. There is a wraparound porch on the south side and on the westerly side to take advantage of looking over this area and looking out towards the ponds, looking over to the west and southwest. This is an area here that's used for storage on the first floor. There's some office area above, and there's a partial basement part of this area that's accessed over here, again for storage down below. But the main tasting area is all located here, just a little bit over 4,000 square feet in size, with a wraparound porch here. Handicap parking located here, and also some handicap parking located over here. In terms of, I guess let's look at the septic system first, because that may come into question. And actually, Jeff Catlett is here. He's your town sanitarian and director of health. He's reviewed this. It was actually built and sized for this many years ago when Dan Ruliger first built the site. They had anticipated, and I think at times had up to 150 or maybe even more guests here. And the system's located down in the field, and it was sized for all of this. I'm going to flip over here just for a second so I can go through it with you. I'm going to have to move over here so I can see this and read it. But basically, when we look at the septic system, it's based on occupancy. And we took, not that it would ever happen, but we took occupancy and looking at design flows for 150 people in the new facility. We were looking, it's hard to read upside down. We're looking at the warming house at 100 people, and we were looking at the covered bridge, I believe, as well at 100 people. So it gave us a total number of, guest-wise, we were up to, 75, 100, 150, 325 occupants in total. And when we do the math, it comes out to a septic area that requires 2,031 square feet of leaching area. The existing system that was constructed is 3,400 square feet of leaching area, so it's quite a bit oversized. Jeff has reviewed that and is comfortable with that. In terms of parking, and this goes back a few years, we came before you and got the overflow parking in the field approved. There's a total of 195 parking spaces on the property. And when we look again at the occupancy, the warming house, 75 occupants, the covered bridge, 100 occupants, and the new facility at 150, we're at 325. When we do the math again, based on your 1 per 3 occupants, it comes out to 108 spaces required. We've got 195 spaces, and we do have the required number of handicap spaces provided. So let me flip back over here again. Now, one of the things that Dory mentioned in terms of the court settlement was the new building, which is located here, and the storage container, which is over here behind the old sugar house. And it's labeled here. And again, I got to move. I apologize for getting in the way. It's behind the stockade fence. 8, I believe, by 40. I think is the size.
I think that's right.
I believe it's 8 by 40. It's located over here behind the fence. It's been there for a number of years, and that was part of the court settlement. And it's going to stay there. Nothing's going to move. And it's screened from the road and from the abutting property. As Dory said, we were approved a conservation earlier this month. We also met with the fire department, which I think I talked to you about the last time I was here. They brought their truck up, actually, and we looked at access, decided that the best access was this. We're improving this, we're widening it based on their recommendations. We also got the design guidelines for the ladder truck from Hazardville. Summers doesn't have one. If they needed one, it comes from Hazardville. And this is designed so that the truck can come in. It's got the ability to turn, back up, and get back out if it was ever needed to come in here. Same thing with the ambulance. Plenty of room for an ambulance to come in and again, turn, K-turn, and back out. So we gave them this in terms of their access and location. That was the one they preferred. Let's take a look. I think I handed out to you some copies of the building itself. This is the front view, and I think there's 3 views on the one that I handed out. And if anybody else wants one of those, I guess it has one. But this is a post and beam structure that's coming from the barnyard. This is the front view that you would see from the parking area just opposite the handicap parking spaces. This is the main door here. This is the side wraparound porch, which goes all the way around to the backside overlooking the ponds. This is the workspace area here, basement below with more storage. This is obviously a cathedral ceiling on the inside. This is all open all the way up and all post and beam structure. So it's a pretty nice looking building. If you flip through the pages, you've got a view of the other side that shows you the wraparound porch on the front side and a little bit different perspective there. That's the porch, which overlooks the south and the west overlooking the pond area. So I think that's a basic overview of what we're looking at here in terms of new construction, building location, parking, septic system. I don't know, I'm sure I probably forgot something, but I think I've covered most of it. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Questions?
Hearing no questions, any further statements
I
on the
just have a
applicant?
couple of few things. So that was a great overview. Thank you very much. And as we've said, the access drive is not changing. The parking facilities are not changing. It's really limited improvements that are changing. I don't think we talked about lighting. There's no changing to proposed lighting in the parking field. There will be some building-mounted lights required to meet building code on the new structure. We don't have details of those, but they will be compliant with your lighting regulations by being full cutoff, no LED lighting, and we'll make sure that those are compliant. We can certainly review specifications with the zoning agent when it comes time to get to that level. We're not proposing any changes to landscaping because, again, we talked about this at previous approvals. There's extensive, you've probably all been out there, I presume. There's extensive landscaping on the grounds already. And I think your regulations require at least a minimum of 20% to be landscaped. We have much more than that. That's either undisturbed, natural, or landscaped already. We're not proposing any changes, again, in the parking field, so we don't have any of the parking landscape requirements that are triggered there either. I believe that satisfies your regulatory requirements. Nothing is changing except what we talked about today, and all of those structures are fully compliant with your bulk area requirements for the zone, with setbacks, and I think that we've laid it out there. So if there's questions from this commission, we're happy to entertain them, or if there's any comments from the public, I just reserve the right to respond afterwards. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing. Sorry. Operationally, and I'm just stating this for the record for everyone who's here, operationally things aren't going to change from what was agreed in stipulations either with prior approvals or that have been incorporated into the settlement agreement, which includes controls and conditions on indoor music, outdoor music, events, and things of that nature. We're not proposing a change to any of that. Again, all of that was approved by court settlement, and that is all incorporated to be part of the operations going forward with this revised site plan. Okay.
Fair enough. Okay. I'm going to open this up to comments from the audience. Please direct any comments you have to the commissioners, and please, do as much as possible, keep them on the topic of the proposed changes here. Anybody?
Good evening. My name is Ken Pryor. I live at 364 Mountain Road. As you heard from Dory, the town, the winery, and I have reached a settlement agreement. And this application is part of that agreement process. I'm not here in opposition to the winery, but I only want to ensure that applicable town and state regulations are followed. My concern is the increased traffic and the backups on Mountain Road that the lack of parking is causing, or could cause, in the future. The applicant's parking analysis focuses on indoor capacity and does not account for the newly approved concurrent uses. So these uses have been combined where they used to be separate. There are about 33 picnic tables and patio tables for additional outdoor seating. There are benches, hammocks, and the customers are allowed to bring their own chairs and tents. There are igloos with even more seating. The tap room has a deck and tables on the outside, as will the new facility. There are igloos with more seating, and there's a gazebo where music is played, and many people also gather, significantly increasing the attendance and vehicle trips. With over 80 acres of property, large crowds can and do assemble outside all over the grounds, not just in the buildings. Cruise nights and similar events also draw outdoor crowds. I just got some pictures here of what I'm talking about as far as outdoor seating. I don't know if you guys have been there, but these were clipped from a video from Warwick's Pond. And you can see the hammocks, picnic tables, there's patio tables, the deck, the outside deck. There's also seating outside that's not accounted with the indoor capacities. Also below the tap room, there's patios and also outdoor seating. The site currently provides 195 parking spaces. However, these abstract calculations do not reflect the actual observed conditions. On multiple occasions, the facility has exceeded on-site parking capacity, resulting in vehicles backing up on Mountain Road. Despite the fact that the applicant proposes a new building with a stated indoor capacity of 100 people, this is not counting the capacity outside on the deck that can now operate at the same time as other activities without providing additional parking. At the last meeting, they had talked about the intent to remain under 200 parking spaces to avoid state trigger review process. That doesn't override the requirement that parking and circulation be adequate for the actual operations and the expansion. The zoning regulations emphasize queuing because the safety risk it creates, vehicle stacking up already occurs on Mountain Road on a blind curve, blocking sight lines, forcing unsafe maneuvers, restricting emergency access vehicles. These are documented traffic and public safety hazards that will only be intensified with the proposed expansion. Planning decisions must be based on actual operating conditions. Approving an expansion, increasing the parking and circulation hazards without adequate analysis or mitigation would be inconsistent with the intent of the town and state regulations. I got some more photographs of, because the parking lot was filled up, we had a traffic jam on Mountain Road.
Could you please tell us the date of those photos?
This was Mother's Day.
So this was prior to the settlement agreement being signed?
Could you define a traffic jam, please?
We got
Excuse me,
pictures right here.
one person at a time, and you can ask follow-up after he's finished of the commission. Thank you. Go ahead.
These are pre-existent conditions. I'm worried about the future expansion and more traffic if parking is not addressed. So yes, this is a traffic jam on Mother's Day. It's happened every Mother's Day except for one because it was raining out. Cars exiting the facility blindly because other cars are blocking the entrance. So in the future, with the future expansion, it's just going to add more traffic if parking's not addressed.
Now, we did a traffic study before in the past.
They have done one, but this is strictly for the new building and location, and that it meets the zoning requirements for a site plan.
All right. Also, I submitted a letter to the commission addressing the buffer zone between our home and the parking lot. At the time of the original approval, neither Dan Roller or the Murdochs were required to install buffering between Mountain Road in the winery parking because the existing forested area was relied upon to satisfy that requirement. Over the summer and into the fall of 2025, the Murdochs remove a substantial portion of the vegetation buffer between our property, the parking lot, and the sugar shack. In prior years, they also cut a roadway through the buffer zone to connect the winery to their residents. I really didn't concern myself with this cutting until just recently when car headlights started beaming into our bedroom window. By intentionally altering and reducing this landscaping, the applicants have effectively eliminated the buffer that justified the original approval. As a result, they should be required to return into compliance for that buffered area. And so the parking lot is elevated. It's elevated from the new facility, where the new facility is, also my house. So when you're in the second floor of my house, you're looking directly into the parking lot. And these are some pictures I took this just recently. There's the snow from just the other day. This is from my bedroom window, and you can see the fallen logs and the trees that were cut down this fall. You can see the parking lot and the lights. This is from downstairs, and this is just cleared right out. It's almost devoid of any kind of vegetation. The cut log you can see there in the pile that's in this picture. And this is where the roadway was cut. I put a line there, but you can see it right here from the sugar shack over to the Murdoch's residence. And that's about all my concerns. Like I said, I'm not in opposition to the expansion. I just want to make sure that we're following our regulations and the traffic and additional parking is addressed.
Okay. Just so you understand, the point of this hearing is what's happening with the structure here. Any changes that they've made that you perceive to violate some other part of the agreement would be handled separately. You would make a complaint to the zoning official. They would take whatever action they deem to be appropriate based on whatever evidence they obtained on that. But we're looking specifically at the proposed changes, the proposed building.
Correct. Additional,
okay. Right.
Additional capacity.
Right.
Yep.
I guess you have to stamp these all in as exhibits. Thank you. So I didn't mean to bypass it.
Sorry.
Any other comments? Hearing none.
I'll just address that and then we can close. I'm going to note for the record that my clients have negotiated in good faith for over a year on this settlement agreement that was approved by all relevant parties. And if additional parking or additional landscaping were elements that were important, they should have been addressed previously in the negotiations. Nothing has changed on this site since those negotiations were ongoing and finalized, and nothing is going to be changing other than these limited improvements right here. The lighting concerns and the buffer issues stem back to probably 2 or 3 years ago when there was some complaints and a cease and desist order was granted or issued having to do with lighting, and all of the lighting has been made compliant and signed off on since then by the zoning agent. And the parking issues have been raised by the neighbor multiple times during all the prior hearings. This expansion, the additional tasting room, and the operations were all fully disclosed and approved by himself as well as part of the settlement agreement. And to be here now raising issues that were not raised as part of the settlement and trying to inject them into your review at this point is improper and lacks, good faith having to do with all of those negotiations. None of them are relevant, in my opinion, to your review, and I don't think they should be relevant in your opinion to your review. The sole issue before you, as directed by the court, was to come and get approval for the new improvements, site plan approval for what's changing. We've identified those, we've outlined it, nothing else is changing, nothing else warrants your review other than the compliance of this tasting room and the permanent location of that storage building as shown on the site plan. That's fully compliant with your regulations. I think we've checked all the boxes. I hope that you will agree, close the hearing, and see fit to approve this application. Appreciate your time.
Any further comments? Okay, any other additional questions from the commission?
For the record, I did have our consulting engineer, Jeff Ford, review the site plan.
Okay.
He didn't see any concerns.
My next question was going to be any staff comments, but thank you for getting in there. Any other staff comments? Okay. Hearing none. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Can I have a motion on the proposed plan for the building as proposed?
Motion to approve application number PZC 26-001, Summers Mountain Properties, 359 Mountain Road, Summers, Connecticut. Seeking site plan approval for construction of a new building housing a tasting room and an event space, approximately 4,000 square feet of storage, approximately 2,100 square feet, and permanent placement of current storage container.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Can I offer an amendment that the lighting plan be submitted and approved by the town?
They would need that anyways when they get
Okay.
the building permit.
The lighting plan wasn't here, so I just want something on the record.
Right, okay.
For the building.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, moving on to new business. Oak Ridge Dairy LLC, 122 Watchhog Road. Discussion presentation regarding proposed placement of bins on site for manure storage.
So I can start it off, I guess, just to explain. This came about, Oak Ridge Dairy had to go to the Conservation Commission because they want to put in an access drive off of 4 bridges, and they need to cross the wetlands to put a culvert in. When Joanna Shapiro shared with me the site plan, I saw the storage buildings depicted on the site plan, which prompted me to inquire, wait a minute, what are you doing? What's going here? So I think that this should be addressed by the commission and to either confirm
Now,
the steps that are
storage buildings
taken.
pre-existing, or
No.
no?
No. So I've asked Oak Ridge to come and share exactly where it's located, the volume, the size of the structures, how long it'll be there, etc.
Oh, okay.
Because I believe it falls under our storage of manure exceeding 16 cubic yards, which requires a special use permit
Okay.
per our regulations.
Okay. Hi. Again,
Easy night for you.
I know, right? I'm super. Again, for the record, Dory Reiser from Kahan, Kerensky, and Capicella, representing Oak Ridge Dairy. I'm going to help them through the explanation with you. I'm going to turn it over to my client. I've got Jay Ursary here as well as representatives from Oak Ridge who will introduce themselves because they're going to present, what's happening out there. Give you some information so you can make a determination. This has been placed on your agenda as considering whether or not this is manure storage. We don't believe it is, and we're going to explain why we don't believe it is. We're going to be looking to you for a decision as the interpreter of your regulations. We think it's just a continuation of our practices of fertilizing the fields. We're just modernizing that. And so we don't think it needs a permit either as manure storage or really any other zoning permit. We do believe it's a permitted as of right agricultural use. But I think in order to understand how we get there, I'd like you to understand a little bit about the history of how we manage these fields and how we're proposing to manage them with the fertilization moving forward, which these containers play into. The ones that Jen has located on the site plan for you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Are you going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
How you doing? I'm Seth Baylor from Oak Ridge Dairy. And I guess backing up a little history. So my family bought this property in 1983. So they bought it with the Moser family. So you can look at the deed, and it's back dating over 40 years ago. For the past 40 years, we've been spreading manure on this property from Ellington. We bring our manure up there to fertilize our field, to grow crops, to feed our cows. We've been doing it for 40 years, and we plan to continue to spread manure. We are permitted through the DEP, which is regulated by EPA, and we have a permit with DEP for all our practices, and we follow them to a T because we have to. We have a nutrient management plan that's done by a professional company every year that gives us records of, or we submit records. They look at our crop yields, and they do a nutrient management plan for each acre that we farm in every town that we farm. So we do have a lot of regulation and compliance that we follow, and we have to follow. But I guess, I don't know, from 1980 to 2013 when I started, my dad, I talked to them, they brought manure here for many years. They stockpiled it in the field throughout the winter, and then in the spring, in the fall time, they would come up with payloaders, scoop it up, dump it in a spreader, and spread it out. That is technology has come a long way, and we are a lot more precise in what we do. So I guess from when I started in 2013, that was the practice that we were still doing. I've been with the company, with my family farm, for almost 14 years. And since then, I guess I'd like to take you through the history of what we do now. So in 2013, we started doing no-till practices to help the soil and help conserve water runoff. We've done a lot of practices on both Watchog and Hurlburt Road. And each year we would come up, spread manure, and some neighbors might have known that back then there would have been chicken manure that would spread there. That we do not do anymore, but that is a permitted practice that is regulated and by Department of Ag and DEP, and that's what we have to follow, the nutrient rates that we can put in. So we don't do that anymore, but that is a practice that we can do, and regulations say that we can do. But since 2013 to 2017, we built a brand new dairy facility in Ellington. At that time, before that, like I said, we would stockpile it. In 2017, when we built the dairy, we brought in some new technology where we can remove the fiber out of the manure, and we use that for recycled bedding that we put under the cows, so the cows lay on the fiber. It's like a sawdust material, and we use that for bedding. The liquid still has the nutrients in it. We have it we store it in a pit that is on our farm that we hold over the winter, and then in the spring or in the fall, we bring it up to all of our properties and we spread it on the field. So from 2017 to 2022, we would drive tractors up here. We'd broadcast it over the fields on Watchog Road with tankers, and we'd spread it on the field for fertilizer, regulated by our permit through DEP. In 2022, we started a new practice to be more efficient, and we, instead of driving tractors up here with tankers, we bought semis with a tanker on the back, but it had an arm. So we purchased a transfer tank. So the transfer tank would sit on the side of the road. We'd drive up to the property with our trucks. We'd take the boom out, and we'd put the manure in that transfer tank. And then from there, we'd have a tractor that would be in the field, go under that transfer tank, pump off of that, and then go spread the field. So that's what we did 2021, 2022. 2022 and 23, or beginning of 23, we bought it's called a drag line. So technology, we've been investing into it to be more efficient and to make it easier on the soil and better for our fields. So we bought a drag line, which is a 2-mile hose that hooks to that transfer tank, and our trucks would come up, put the manure in that transfer tank, and drive around the field, pulling that hose and spread the manure on it. Sometimes we would inject it into the soil, and sometimes we'd be broadcasting it onto the soil, depending on the time of year, in the mud and a lot of different factors. And I guess we've been doing that. We did it last year. That's a practice that's very common. And I guess what we're looking to propose is have transfer tanks that we can then feed a 360 rain system, which is a robotic system that Dave's going to talk a bit about. But we have the same practice where we fill our tankers, drive them up to Summers or to our field, offload them into the transfer tank, and then that transfer tank is sucking that out, bringing it to the robot, which is irrigating our fields as well as putting water on as well. It's mixing it. But it's just transfer tanks, same thing that we have been doing for many years. It's just a new apparatus to spread it. And I guess I forgot to mention that in the past, in 2023, we implemented a methane digester, which is I won't get into the details, but a cow poops about 15 gallons a day, and in that poop there's still energy, and we take the energy off of that manure, make methane gas, and we power about 800 cars worth of natural gas every single day. So that said, it's the same material. We've just been able to capture the fiber out for our bedding. We take the gas off for manure, and the nutrients are left for fertilizer. That's regulated by the DEP, and we do everything per practice based off our comprehensive nutrient management plan that we review every year. So I guess that's a little history. Dave can talk about the 360 rain that we're using, and then we can keep going.
So I'm David Moser. I work on the operations team at Oak Ridge. So Seth did a great job talking about the history. I'm here to talk about our proposal for Watch Hog, what we believe is the next step in our long history of adopting technology and going to the next thing. So it's a 360 rain system. There's a wonderful video on our Facebook page, on our LinkedIn account if you want to actually see the machine running. So like Seth described, we have transfer tanks. We haul manure from Oak Ridge. We unload it into a transfer tank. The transfer tank is then controlled by this autonomous vehicle. There's a pump station on that. In that vehicle, we can regulate how many gallons of manure and how many gallons of water we mix together at the pump station. And that's depicted on the year, how much rain we're getting, what the crop needs, so we can control the nutrients while the crop is growing. That's a big difference from what we were doing to what we're doing, what we're proposing to do. So, and what we were doing on other fields. So previously, manure got spread in the fall or in the spring before the corn crop was growing. This system will actually walk between the crop. It puts the manure on right at the roots of the corn and allows that nutrient uptake to take right away. So it's a really agronomic way for the corn to suck up those nutrients because it's right when it's needed. And that's why we feel like it's a state-of-the-art technology. So to kind of go through how manure will get to this system and the logistics of that. So we have a truck. The truck arrives at our transfer tank at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday. And I'm just going to walk through a week so we're all on the same page. The truck is going to unload into that transfer tank. We are going to turn the rain system on. Monday morning, 7:30, we turn the rain system on. During the day, trucks are going to continue to bring manure and to put into the transfer tanks. At night, it will draw the transfer tanks down as well as during the day, and the thing will run all night. By the time we get to the next morning, the transfer tanks will be empty or almost empty, and the trucks will continue to come again. So the flow is, the machine depicts how much we put on. That's depicted by how much the corn crop needs, so we know what nitrogen the corn crop needs. We're fertilizing the crop. We put it on through that. When the trucks come, they dump. The machine takes it out. This happens 6 days a week. Sunday we don't haul manure. The irrigation system doesn't run. If that makes sense. So, any questions on physically getting the manure here?
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead. So the transfer tanks are on site too, right? They stay on the field?
They are mobile, but we bring them in for the growing season.
Yeah. And that you guys have been doing that for years as already?
So it's just different.
Sorry.
Dory.
No, I was just going to say you were doing one at the road, and now explain why it's going to be four.
So we used to have one transfer tank on the side of the road, right? We used to unload off the road, not get the trucks off the road. The town has put up no standing or idling signs on the road, so we need a way to get these transfer tanks into the field, hence our road access. The transfer tanks will sit in the fields. We will put that in the transfer tanks. The reason for 4 transfer tanks is because it's going to be hauled during the day. The machine runs all night. The transfer tanks are empty in the morning. We continue to refill. They empty. We refill. They empty.
Gotcha. In the past, though, those tanks would go back to your site?
So in the past, we would spread a lot more gallons per minute. So corn crop still needs X amount of gallons to grow, right? X amount of nutrients. We would put that on, preload that all in the spring, and we had a drag line, and drag lines run upwards of thousands of gallons a minute to hundreds of gallons a minute. Depends on the size, depends on your specs, right? So it would be a shorter window because it's a lot more gallons a minute, lots more trucks all at the same time.
Sure.
So constantly we had trucks dumping. This is going to be a lot slower process, less trucks per day, less gallons per day, same total gallons throughout the growing season of the corn crop.
Gotcha. So you would typically flood it in past practice.
Correct, yes.
Now you're going to spread it out over a duration, make it more efficient.
Yes, correct. It allows us to keep our trucking more efficient, but better for the environment and the corn crop. We are spreading the nutrients out while the corn needs it and exactly when it needs it. So the corn doesn't need it before it's planted, right?
Yeah,
It needs it while it's growing.
Yeah.
So this autonomous machine allows us to do that. We've never had that capacity before. So that's why this change, the manure is not a change. The corn crop needing manure is not a change. The change is the application of getting the manure there.
Gotcha.
But you spread it before you plant your crops, right?
Used to.
Used to. So
Yep.
now you don't anymore. This will eliminate before you plant. You don't.
Depends on the field.
Okay.
And depends on the year. So we don't have one of these machines for every field, right? We're proposing to put one. We have one on another field. Last year was the first year we had it. It was incredible. We actually increased yield as well as decreased the amount of trucks we need at one specific time.
And then
so
you wouldn't have to do this in the fall either. Then.
correct, exactly. Yep.
So you eliminate spring and fall. Really, once you plant the crops, that's the only time.
Correct.
This is running now.
It would be
And
running.
on
So
purpose.
in the springtime, there's a cover crop that's growing or a forage crop that's growing. It might run during that, depending on which field it's on. So the goal is we're not spreading manure when there's not a crop growing. That's what this machine allows us to do. We want the crop to be growing because that's when the nutrients are needed. That's when the machine will be there.
You trialed the truck, the 360 ring truck. Was it on Four Bridges?
Yes, it
That's
was.
the one that was parked there. Okay.
Yep. It's still there. It's out in the
Yeah,
field if you want to drive past.
I've seen it.
And that's where the video was. We invited it. So we got a grant from the state of Connecticut to try this out, do this. It's the first one in Connecticut. We got a grant. We invited the commissioner out. Had a great day to explain, show people, and we'd be willing to do that again to show where really technology has come from. What Seth talked about, truckloads of manure being dumped, stored all winter long, running. Now everything's contained. And it's autonomous. It's a really cool system.
So the transfer tanks that you're using, they're coming in during the season?
Yep.
And then they're not there when you're not in the season?
They are on Probert Road right now, so I would say they're not there. We didn't pull them out this year, but yes, that's the concept, correct.
So the transfer tanks are temporary?
Yes.
They're not a permanent fixture year-round?
Just season. Just for the season.
Just for the season. They're on. They come in on semis. They're on wheels. We pick them up, slide them on the semi.
So the idea being that they're not a permanent storage. It's a temporary seasonal function.
Yes.
For the 360 rain system.
Yep.
When you're done with the season, you harvest your crops. They leave when you're not applying the manure that you're taking out of Ellington.
Exactly. Yep. And really, that's why we call it a transfer tank. because if it was storage, it'd be a permanent structure there all the time.
And that access will be brought in from Watchog side?
So we're proposing, which on the wetland side, I think it's, what road is it, Jay?
It's Four Bridges.
Four Bridges, sorry.
Sketch if you like to see.
Yeah.
So the reason we're coming in off of Four Bridges, we own a well right off the road there, and that's where we'll get our water for the irrigation side. And then depending on how the year's growing, we can depict how much water we need or how much water we don't need. We can control all of that. So our proposed, it's actually an improvement to an existing farm road right here. That's where the existing road is.
So if you take a look at this, and this is right off of your GIS, this is the latest 2023 photograph. And you'll see a little red circle, which I put on there before I printed these.
Yeah.
And that's the approximate location of where the transfer tanks are going to sit. You can see that the irrigation pond that's here, and the building here is the former Milikowski warehouse, which I think most of you are probably familiar with. Mm-hmm. And right next to that, which nobody's probably ever seen because it's been grown over for decades, there's a well house right here. Mm-hmm. And this is the well that the water will come from. It'll be piped up the old farm road right here out to where the transfer tanks are and where the 360 will start. And so that's the source for the irrigation portion of this. And then obviously the manure in the transfer tanks where it'll be mixed. There's a manifold there. It gets mixed depending on what they need, how much irrigation they need, how much fertilizer they need. And then the machine actually runs itself up and down over the field. It's GPS driven. It's quite an interesting system. And these guys plant via GPS. All of their crop is put in via GPS, and it's all plugged in and linked together with the 360 range. So it knows right where the row is. It goes down the row, turns around, comes back, goes down the row, turns around, comes back. It doesn't run the crop over. It's amazing what it does. But there's an existing farm road that's already here. It's been there for years. This was probably dug by chance, I believe. I don't know. This field has been pretty much the same for as long as I could go back, which is like 1934 aerials. But they'll come in here. There's a little brook crossing here, which is the application that's before the Conservation Commission. And then out here in the field is where the transfer tanks and where the 360 will start. So, and we need the well for the water. That's the reason that it's here.
Two things to clarify on that. So, thank you, Jay. This location, exactly what Jay said, the reason the road is because the well is right there, and that's where we have power. So we need the well and the power. And to clarify, this is different than what we tried to do last year. Last year we tried to put in an irrigation pond that would have manure. It would be in the ground, permanent storage structure. We heard the town, we listened, they do not want that. We have adjusted, and now it's simply transfer tanks and this well, and that's what's allowing us to come back and say, hey, this is the new plan.
And just for the record, you're spraying the exact same manure as we have in the past. It's actually more diluted because it's spread out versus flooding the fields.
Yes, correct. So so if you look at, so we would measure what a corn crop needs in gallons per acre, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to put the same gallons per acre on as we would have before, just a longer period of time. Correct.
So
injecting it. We are not injecting it. So we used to. So the Rain 360, that's the beauty of a growing crop. So while the corn is growing up, this thing literally is dribbling it on the ground, right by the root base. So we don't need to inject it because the corn is sucking at that point in time into the ground. It's right dribbling on the ground right next to it. When we injected with the drag hose, lots more gallons per minute at one specific time, that's where the injection helps hold it in place. This is a way less gallons per minute. Same seasonal gallons per acre, less gallons per minute, it's going to soak into the ground. And if it's raining out, we're not running an irrigation system in the rain. That's counterintuitive.
So just to make sure I understand this correctly, so what you used to do was a transfer tank on the side of the road, a lot of trucks, twice per year.
Exactly, yep.
You're now proposing is a tank off the road onto your property.
Correct.
The same transfer tank.
Yep. More transfer tanks so that we can have a period of time, basically.
Sure.
Yep.
Seasonal.
Yep.
It's temporary. We're not storing manure 12 months out of the year.
Correct.
And rather than a lot of trucks twice a year, it's the same number of trucks spread out through the growing season on a temporary seasonal basis on your property, not on the road.
Exactly.
Will you need to do road improvements here?
Yeah, so it's an old dirt farm road, so we would need to make sure we have a good apron coming off with, can't think of the rip-wrap or trap rock, so it doesn't track out onto the road, and then a gravel driveway so that it's solid. We're not tracking mud out on the road. We would make sure that happens. That's why the improvement to the existing farm road. And then we need to put a culvert in. It looks like they used to drive across the brook. We don't want to do that. We want a culvert so that it's clean. We don't dilute the brook, make a mess there.
I think I've been here since the 60s, so I'm kind of accustomed to the all-style manure spreaders, and I've seen some of the changes. I'm really impressed that you can get the fiber matter out to actually be clean enough to use for bedding.
It's an impressive. So you ever made applesauce?
Yes.
So it's the same idea, except for we can get
We may use those two things differently.
Yes, I'd be willing to show you. It's a giant applesauce maker, but that's how it works.
And I think the technology is impressive. I think you're doing some fantastic things, doing state of the art stuff. We're talking about an enclosed tank as opposed to an open lagoon system. I mean that's but the first thing I heard was someone was going to tell me how this isn't manure, and the only thing I've heard it referred to so far is as manure. What is it or is it not that we're talking about here?
It is manure. It's not manure storage.
It's not storage.
Right. So
It's not a public hearing. Please don't talk.
Yeah. So that's what I'm just. Thank you, guys. I think that was way better.
So what you're saying is, if you were to drive up the truck and the truck was to hook to this thing on the wheels and you swapped out the truck, rather than do that, you are loading it off of the trucks, but it's all getting used kind of same day or a couple of days.
Exactly. Period. So the reason we say it's not, and I don't think it meets either the definition or the intent of the manure storage regulations, because it's not there for any extended period of time. It really is a mechanism to flow through from the truck that delivers it to get it out into the irrigation system on the field. And there'll be a constant influx and output. And the manure isn't sitting there. You had mentioned maybe it's not sitting there for 12 months or whatever. It's not even sitting there, the same manure, for probably more than 24 hours, because it's a constant in, constant out, constant replenishing all day and all week long. So we don't see it as storage. We see this container as a vehicle mechanism to get it to the, from the truck to the, what do you call it?
360.
But it goes.
It goes from the tank to the ground. Is the important
part. Something into the 360
Yep.
rain garden.
Yeah, it's all piped.
Yeah, so it's piped then into that, and it comes immediately back out again. So it is manure. I'm not saying it's not manure.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not storage. So I don't think it falls within that regulation. We do believe it is a continuation of what's been going on for almost 50 years there, which is bringing manure to the site. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we think the storage is less now than what it probably was in the past, because in the past you heard them say they would truck the manure in, they'd dump it, it would sit over the winter sometimes, it would get spread in the spring and fall. That's manure storage. I'm sure that's not what this is intended to contemplate either, because I don't think you have any of your farms in town who probably all do manure fertilization this way as needing a special permit for manure
still
storage.
store it in the fields.
Right, it's stored in the field.
I saw 40 loads
I
on
see
the
it
way
all the
here.
time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if anything, that was sitting longer. This is a constant in, constant out, so we don't really see it as manure storage, and that's why we don't see it as requiring a permit. Again, you're the ultimate decider on that, but just so you can make that decision, I want to just share with you, your regulations do say that agriculture is permitted as of right. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the definition of agriculture, both in the statute and in your regulations, the very first thing here is cultivation of the soil. Well, what's cultivation of the soil? This is just a printout from, if you could just pass these around, from the internet. Cultivation of the soil is the process of preparing and managing soil to optimize conditions for plant growth, improve soil health, and enhance crop yield. It's fertilizing your soil. I mean, when you go down here, it talks about under the definition and purpose, it's increasing nutrient availability, and one of the methods of soil cultivation is adding amendments, incorporating organic matter such as compost and manure. That's exactly what we're doing. That is essential to agriculture. It is essential to farming operations. So we think that this is
I've heard
permitted as of right.
no discussion from here about the inability to fertilize the fields. I think everybody understands that you have a right to farm, to fertilize your fields, to take those sorts of appropriate actions. Right?
I
I mean, it's part of doing business.
Right.
Right. It's sort of like if I sell bread, I have to be allowed to have the truck show up with the bread.
Right.
The question is, how much bread can I have in the back of the store, essentially? I mean, it's a failed analogy, but you know where I'm going.
I
Right?
do. And I guess that was the reason to take you through the history, so you could see this process isn't different than what's been happening all along. And in fact, I continue to maintain the manure, if you will, is going to be stored a heck of a lot shorter periods of time now that it's just passing through this transfer tank. So that's why we don't think it requires a zoning permit. And that's why we think that it should be deemed a continuing, approved, permitted operational use for this farm. We don't dispute that in order to get the driveway up to the tanks and all that, clearly we have to follow regulation. That's why we're going to the Conservation Commission to do all that. But the actual use of these temporary holding tanks for transfer is really just part of the standard process. We don't think that is a regulated activity for this board.
How many tanks are we looking to temporarily?
Can I just interject real quick before we keep going on? Just to say a couple things. One, that it's awesome the advances you guys are doing, and this is not about this fertilizing or the use of the machine. The two specific questions that I had was the size of the bins, well, three, the volume of what's going to be in there and how long it's going to be in there. Because our zoning regulations clearly state that any manure pile, area of concentrated storage or waste be in accordance with section 214 3.3 C5D, which says if it's greater than 16 cubic yards, you need a special use permit, and it's supposed to be 100 feet off the road.
Well, these tanks will be 100 feet off the road. They'll be well into the property. Yeah, that's me.
Can anybody do cubic yards to gallons for me?
500 to 600 feet off the road.
Okay, and the volume and the size of the bins.
So, yeah, I can go through the volume. So the volume goes back to storage versus transfer. David again. So
Dave, how big is a tank?
For 21,000 gallons.
Okay, and what's that in yards?
There's 4 of them at 21,000 gallons. That allows us to spread the truck traffic out and not have as many trucks all at one time. Less transfer tanks, more trucks at one time.
Right. The problem is that I'm hearing a solid unit of measure and a liquid unit of measure. Our regulations did not anticipate liquid manure.
Yep.
And your liquid manure, so the liquid manure and our regulations are awkward in decision making. I mean,
ChatGPT can tell us.
But I think
84,000 gallons, right?
But can I just, while he's calculating.
If it's less than our number,
It's not.
It won't be.
okay.
But there's two things that we have to look at. Even if it's over 16,000, it has to be two things. There's manure and it's being stored.
Okay.
And when you look at storage, that's not defined in your regulations. So how are we going to define storage? Storage usually contemplates something being kept there for an extended period of time. And again, as we've described it, with the constant inflow and outflow, it's not being retained. Your regulations go further and say if something's not defined, how do we figure out what the definition is? You look at the statutes, you look at the building code, and you look at Black's Law Dictionary. So I didn't find anything in statute about what constitutes storage. How long does it have to be there?
Let me kind of help you out here. I have a 275 gallon oil tank in my basement that's hooked up to my furnace. That's oil for my use. Even if I've got a 50 gallon barrel in the garage full of oil, that's storage. Right? I mean, can we kind of agree on that?
The 50 gallon in the garage?
Storage is not use.
Right.
Right.
Because it's separate.
storing.
It's just sitting there.
Right,
It's storing.
exactly. It's usually storing for a later date, for future, not for the principal point of storage is to keep it safe and in the same condition and what have you. In this case, this is use. It's to use it immediately, in and out. So again, we don't think, even if it is over 16 cubic yards, which I'm sure it is, based on
415 cubic yards.
yeah, I'm sure it is.
Say no, if you want to convert.
Yeah, but I don't think, it
16
might be
cubic
there.
yards.
but I don't think it meets the storage component and not what was intended for this regulation.
Because to that fact, our tankers that we drive up to town, the tankers that we haul are 8,000 gallons. That's more than 16 yards. So that would mean every tanker that we drive would need a permit.
Well,
and it's like a school bus.
No, because you're not storing it.
No, you're driving it on and you're spreading it.
Yeah.
You're not filling a bin.
It's happening
Filling a bin
immediately.
is storage.
And as you describe this, it's pretty much happening immediately. I mean, you put it in there and your little robot critter goes out and spreads it around in real time, except for Sunday, and you're not filling the tank on Saturday night for Monday. Right. So they're basically, you're telling me they sit there empty Sunday because nothing's happening.
Right.
And
they
they
run
close
up.
to empty almost every morning when they show up at 7 to fill it again.
So 84,000 gallons are being spread every day.
No, only until we hit our nutrient requirements for the corn.
So if you fill the bins and
So-
you
so
meet
if
your
I-
nutrient requirements,
I
then
did the
it's going to
math.
sit there?
So our KFO permit would allow us, if we ran the thing for 24/7 for 14, 15 days, it would get the total nutrients of the corn if it ran straight north.
Okay.
Right? So that's, I can get into the details of all the nitrogen.
But some days it'll run and some days it won't.
Correct.
When it runs, is it full or empty? When it's not running, is it full or empty?
Well, the goal that would have enough to run until we can get there with a truck again, right? The goal is not, it's not storage, it's transfer again, right? So we're not having this so that we can get ahead. We can have it so that we can run when we need the manure. That's the idea.
And then once you've met your nutrient load and you can't, you don't need to fertilize anymore, you'll stop bringing deliveries, so
Correct.
it won't
It'll be
sit
water.
in the tanks, and it will be, the tanks will be emptied.
Yep, correct.
Your
I don't
360.
think stay empty ones if it needs, say there's a dry spell or something.
And we run water.
Just try to save water.
Yeah.
You're going to empty the tanks, is what you're saying. You'll
Yes.
come in
They'll
and
probably
empty
use them
them.
till they're empty and then not fill them again, right?
Well, we empty them. In hours.
So when we meet our nutrient requirements, the manure stops. The rain system would still irrigate the crop because that's water.
Who monitors
Well, it's all
that? We can get
the
into
whole
the logistics
done on
there.
programmable computer.
Well, so I appreciate all of the information you guys have given. And obviously I want feedback from the commission. Ultimately, I would probably say if we need to, like, you could either mull over this and we can, revisit it. I can get a legal opinion. Our regs also, and I'm not trying to battle this out, but they also say to use for definitions, not just Black's Law Dictionary, whatever that Law Dictionary definition of storage is. Also, it says Illustrated Book of Development Definitions, which is more, from a planning and development standpoint than a legal standpoint. And
I had asked you earlier today if you had that.
I finally got it. I talked to Dwight, and he
He sent it to you.
sent me the definition.
Is there a storage definition in there?
There is. The common element among the definitions of storage discussed previously in this opinion is that an item must be in a fixed location for an extended period of time, as stated previously. So, yeah, this doesn't say, 24 hours.
Well, it says extended period of time. I'm thinking that's more than a day or two,
I'm leaning toward the opposite. You get oil in your oil tank, or you have a hot water heater, right? And it holds your hot water.
Yes.
But when you shower, it empties, right?
That's what I hope
And
not.
then it refills.
You're showering way too long.
Essentially,
You can call it a transfer tank. It's all how you label it. You
But
call it
my
transfer
oil
tank or a
tank
storage
sits
tank.
there for a month, maybe 2 in the summer.
yeah, okay.
And is that extended storage, or does that become storage at that point?
I just think the volume far exceeds, and because it's a commercial operation.
I think we have to be really careful because it's this is operational.
Right.
And if we get into operational, how we can operate, we have to be very careful.
Well, I don't
Because-
think. So here's the thing: if a special use permit is just going to have conditions, times that you can, truck and things like that.
Yep.
That's all. But
The 40 piles that I drove past on the way here,
is operational.
Right. Are you going to start policing every farm in town in Summers? Well, you would have to, though. Otherwise, it would be selective enforcement. Because if you're interpreting storage of manure to be this 24-hour or less storage in these tanks, then you have to look at the storage
How do we
of
know they're
manure
empty?
for everyone who's dumping on their fields and then spreading it in the spring, which is what we were doing. But we're trying to do something better, more efficient, more innovative, and modernized, and being penalized for it. So it's
All right, you're not being penalized. I mean, this is getting down a rabbit trail that's...
Hang on, let me kind of weigh in here. I mean, technology changes fast in any field, including farming. Okay? When we talk about what an extended period of time is, obviously you and I have different views on what that means. But I'm not sure we're moving forward at this point in the discussion. Right. I see a lot of people sitting in this room. Are you all left over from the winery, or are you here? Good. No, okay. We have a couple of options. One is we can make a decision on our own at this point based on the evidence we have. Two is we can table this and kind of rediscuss it later. Three is I'm seeing a room full of people. I'm kind of feeling like we owe a public hearing here.
Okay,
as
so,
an option where people can say,
but a
well,
public hearing, right?
In which case you would need. Okay,
you would need an
we have nothing to hear about.
That's right. If you think that there's things that need to be ironed out more, I would go to my attorney.
Okay.
And get a legal opinion.
Yeah, I think we're looking for a determination from either Jen or from you, directing Jen, to say this requires a zoning permit or it doesn't, we deem it as normal agriculture. We just need to know how to proceed.
Well, what's the mind of the commission? You guys want to table this and have Jen get us a legal opinion and see what we move forward with on an application? Do you guys want to come up with some action at this point? Does somebody have a third or fourth option they want to throw out there?
I mean, I think we're talking about definitions here. You know, the way I look at this is transfer tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Storage is a completely different definition. I understand the storage on the field. I see it everywhere as well. So storage is one thing, and these guys are trying to utilize transfer tanks. So if you change the terminology here, it's not a discussion.
Well, I think that is the discussion. Is we have the applicant is presenting that they're operational transfer tanks, and our town staff is considering the possibility that they may be storage tanks.
And exactly.
Right? I mean, and
exactly.
That's kind of what we're here to arbitrate.
Exactly. So who can determine that?
Well, I would say it's probably best to see what legal has to say before making any kind of decision.
We could table and get a legal opinion, or we could just sort of go off on an adventure of our own and make a decision. I would tend to agree with you that getting the legal opinion from our town attorney or a land use attorney would be wise at this point.
Yeah, I've been utilizing a new. Well, he's been before the ZBA before, but Mike Ziska as a consulting land use attorney for land use matters. So he wasn't involved with the first time around. Mm-hmm. You know, Carl did that.
Well, Carl was conflicted out because he was representing the ZEO in a ZBA appeal.
No, with the Manure Lagoon, Carl said it was
really?
Agricultural use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, so
okay.
I can. I'll consult with.
So, motion to table pending.
You don't even have to make a motion. It was just a discussion.
Just table it. Okay.
Yeah, we could just. Yeah, you can table it. But you can make a motion if you want.
I like motions. People know what we do when we
Okay.
make motions and
All
put them
right.
on the minutes.
Okay.
I think we're, have a motion to table this discussion until we can get advice from legal counsel.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, we're cheering.
I do want to come up someday and meet your digestive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If any of you guys, Jen has my contact, if any of you guys want a more in-depth look to understand the actual how it works, we'd be glad to show